powerlifting coaching is broken. Because on one side, you've got guys arguing that the only way you can ever effectively brace is by pulling your rib cage down. And on the other, we got coaches talking about how the only way you can maintain a good shelf is by lifting your chest up. And then we have lifters running around looking like a banana when they squat in both directions. So, which one is the right strategy? Well, if you idiots would shut the hell up and quit arguing, you'd realize that you're both halfway wrong, which also implies that you're halfway right, but I don't want to give you any credit. Because you're missing one fundamental fact of anatomy. The rib cage has joints and isn't just some static object locked in position. When we're squatting, we need anterior tension to create the brace, but that doesn't mean that we have to dump the whole rib cage forward as we're creating that tension. And if we want our upper back and shelf to not suck, we need to have some degree of thoracic extension, but that doesn't mean we need to be flaring the entire rib cage and opening the scissors like your mom was last night. If you're someone who's stuck as banana A or banana B and no amount of cueing solves the issue, we need to work on your thoracic extension, which means that we need to get better at expanding upwards above the rib cage on the front side and pulling things back and around on the backside, all the while ensuring that we're not just arching the shit out of the L spine and making the rib cage move as one big piece of Lego. And we're going to start with things that you can do during your squat warm-up to directly improve your next squat workout. Gotta go hat mic and put the spatula in my pocket for this one. Because we are going to start with the easiest trick in the books, and that is literally just hanging from a chin-up bar. Now you might be thinking, Seth, you don't look very thoracically extended right now, and that is true, but what I am doing here is I'm lengthening some of the major structures that do limit my thoracic extension, such as my pecs and my pec minors. And if I want to make this better for actually creating thoracic extension, I can create that anterior tension through my abdominals to pull my pelvis forward, and now the bottom of my ribcage is being pulled down, while the top of my ribcage is being pulled up into more extension. From there, I can pack my head backwards, get even more extension through the upper T-spine, and this feels really, really nice. And that on your own isn't going to solve all of your problems, but it is going to get things lubed up so we can more effectively move on to step number 2. Step 2A is acquiring a incline bench. Step 2B is grabbing a moderately hefty kettlebell. 2C is going hat microphone again. Once you have all the supplies, you're going to sit midway up the incline bench so that as you lean back, you can plant your feet on the seat, and the top of the bench should be right below the bottom of your shoulder blades. Now, the reason the incline bench is very important here is that it's going to allow us to flex our abdominals to drive our low back into the pad like a dead bug, and that is going to anchor the bottom of our rib cage. What we're going to do from there is we're going to pick up that kettlebell. We're then going to do a pullover, keeping the low back driven down as we're trying to extend over the top of the bench. And this feels really, really, really freaking nasty on everything that we need to open up in order to achieve more thoracic extension. And I usually like to run 2 to 3 sets of these of 15 to 20 reps with moderate weight, really trying to emphasize that arch over the pad while keeping my low back anchored with my abs. And I feel very loosey-goosey juicy every time I run these before squatting. But the flexibility to get into thoracic extension is only half of the equation. The other half is whether or not we can pull ourselves there to get into position and maintain it. So I want to run a little bit of a low load primer that will help me pull into extension without fatiguing me before I get underneath the squat bar. And that is going to look like sitting on a bench in my approximate squat stance, taking the mid part of my forearm, planting that sucker hard against my knee, and then taking my other arm and actively pushing off of my knee, contracting around and trying to squeeze everything as I rotate away. And you might be thinking right now, Seth, it looks like you're doing thoracic rotation, not thoracic extension. But the thing is that as I am rotating, it's like the left side of my rib cage is extending while my right side is flexing. And this is really good at actively opening up both sides of the movement. And if you want to get really spicy and really segment the T-spine itself without getting any real lumbar rotation, we can go lower on the knee, even all the way down to touching the floor, because the more lumbar flexion we have, the less lumbar rotation will be available, which will make sure that we're getting more motion in the T-spine itself. And if you're stuck like a banana and run those before your squat workout, you should feel a lot more ready to create a better brace while having a better shelf simultaneously. But wait, there's more. Because we don't want to just be doing fluffy shit, we want to be making stuff strong as well. So we're going to step up the demand on actually creating that extension. Using the trusty incline bench again, we're going to start out with some scap depression thoracic extension focused Y raises. So when I'm doing these, my goal is not to just lift the dumbbells, but I am lifting the dumbbells by pulling my shoulder blades down my back and arching my T-spine. I don't want the delts to kick in. I don't want this to be a delta exercise. I want this to be an upper back exercise. And if you're doing it right, it should feel really spicy through your entire set of thoracic erectors along with your lower traps. And the first thing you're probably thinking is, Seth, why was your audio so bad there for a little bit? My mic receiver got bumped and disconnected at some point, but I'm too deep into this video to start over, so I am sorry in not advance. And the second thing you're probably thinking is, Seth, that still looks pretty fluffy. And yes, it definitely is, but we can apply the same concept to bigger and bigger movements. And I love this thoracic flexion pulling into thoracic extension intent on things like chest supported rows or even just free hanging double dumbbell rows. And in order to conclude, we got to bring this all the way back to actually squatting. So what the hell does all this mean for getting underneath the squat bar? Well, we want to create tension on the front side between our rib cage and our pelvis, pulling them together so that we can set our brace. This does not mean we're trying to pull ourselves into this kind of position. And once we have this anterior tension created, what we're going to do is lock that down and then pull backwards into thoracic extension above that anterior tension. This is going to allow our backside tension to pull against our frontside tension, and they're both going to pull against each other and let us create way more total tension in regards to our brace. So bottom line, if you want to create the best squat possible, we want tension pulling the rib cage down, but we also want tension pulling the chest up on top of that, because bracing is a tug of war. And if you guys want to make sense out of powerlifting cueing and learn how to coach yourselves, or better learn how to coach your own athletes, hit that link below and sign up for Team Activated, because my only goal is to make every powerlifter better.